Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to another edition of a webinar under the Storage and Handling Knowledge series. By the way, this is our 18th webinar, and we have been doing this consistently since the last 1.5 years. I think we started somewhere in May 2020, and based on the feedback that we have received, uh, we have just thought that we would continue this initiative because this is something where we are trying to give back to the industry in a way which is like pure knowledge sharing. Like, this is not about any product promotion. This is not about talking about any specific product launch or anything. This is just about sharing what we know in the intralogistics space. And that's why if you would have noticed over the last 18 odd sessions, we have covered the gamut of topics in this space, right from very basic concepts of equipment which are used in warehouses, outside warehouses, in plants, outside plants, the various types of equipment, what are the various criteria for selecting those equipment, those simple thumb rules which really help you to make the right decision. And we have not restricted to just the equipment part. We have gone around it, talking about the safety aspects, the good practices. We have got speakers on board talking about various concepts like order picking. How should an order picking be done? We have got experts to talk about batteries, chargers, controllers. So the point that I'm trying to make is that this has become a very thriving platform for all the knowledge seekers who have regularly patronized this platform to get that knowledge. And even post the event, we share these recordings for people to keep going back to those concepts, and it becomes like a running repository for the knowledge articles that we are continuously presenting through these webinars. Now, today's session, like every other session, is again on a specific topic, but this time it's going to be very interesting because uh, for the first time we are talking about something which is autonomous uh, equipment, autonomous range of equipment on this platform. And so there has been lot of discussion going around this. There is lot of myths and facts around it. People have their own understanding of this concept. But then there are various facets of any automation, like in any industry. Similarly, in the intralogistics space also, when we talk about, there are many facets that we need to be aware of before we select the right solution for our application. So to really give a broad overview of what autonomous robotics and autonomous solutions are, we have with us a very eminent speaker who is like very qualified to speak on this subject. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Chaman Nasa. He is the product manager in the intralogistic business of high-tech robotics, a name of repute in this space. And he has been the founder and ex-CEO of RivoPro Tech Solutions, Industrial Automation and Institutional Excellence Services. His work at startups and multinational companies over almost like 13 years has largely focused on bringing product offerings closer to market expectations. He also has played a key strategic role in few of India's fastest growing robotics and automation companies like Grey Orange, and influencing the manufacturing and warehousing space for better efficiency and performance. So he holds a postgraduate degree in advanced robotics from IIT Madras, and is a speaker for various CIE events on material movement automation in manufacturing and warehousing. So I think we are going to have a lot of knowledge shared by Mr. Nasa on this topic. A few house rules before we hand over the stage to Mr. Nasa for carrying forward this event. We would be making the chat section live. So please post all your comments, suggestions, questions on this particular portion, on this particular platform, on the chat box and the Q&A section. And please add your name and your company's name, so that in case we are not able to take your questions during the session, we are able to get back to you after the session through email or through phone to clarify your doubts. So with that, I would invite Mr. Chaman Nasa to take over from here and let us make us understand the broad spectrum of autonomous machines in the intralogistic space. Mr. Nasa, all yours.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this warm welcome. I'm really thankful. I always think, the communities, and by the way, good. I always think that the communities and organizations should come together in the country. Come together and share together, contribute together towards the upliftment of automation in India. There are lot many industries and lot many companies and organizations doing great jobs. So with pride, I take this opportunity, to share whatever my limited experiences and my limited, knowledge has been in this space. So good afternoon, all. This is Chaman. I have, you got the brief introduction about me. There are a few things that I will just like to highlight so that we are well connected throughout the session. From last 13 years, I have been into space of robotics and automation. And from last 6 to 7 years, I have spent a lot of my time in warehouses and in different industries and their warehouses. So including manufacturing plants and the space around logistics, the space around automation, the space around robotics. So and the journey has been quite thrilled. I started as an engineer, and then I gradually started moving on to understand from the how part of engineering to why it should be made. So right, why it should be made, what is the purpose of making anything, what is the purpose of making products like material handling solutions or autonomous material handling solutions, for example. Right. So the session is also built around that. The session will start from a 30,000 feet understanding of why at all do we need to think about automation in material handling solutions, right? What is the need of industries to think about automation in this space? So I'll start from the purpose and the vision of why, from the why part, right? And then I'll gradually start to take you through the journey of, what are the benefits if that path is taken, and what good can be realized from these solutions. So that is how I have built the session, and I'll start. I'll move on.
Yeah, you can start. Yeah, you can start presenting.
Yeah. So. Sure. So I'm starting with giving you glance of the material handling solutions, right? How does this space looks like? How the solutions looks like, right? So this is how it is spread out across, right? As far as my experience, my knowledge is concerned, this is how it is spread out, and this is how the world has known material handling solutions till now. Right, there are many advancements, many technology advancements that are happening in this space. But to sum it up, as it is visible on the screen, the material handling solutions, the autonomous ones, can be broadly classified or categorized into few categories. One can be autonomous mobile robots. that can be one category, or autonomous guided vehicles, that can be one category. The second one is in the space of pick and place material handling solutions, right? Which you can see right here, right side top. Then there are material handling solutions which are operating not only horizontal space, but they are also operating vertically, right? So that's where we have vertical pallet handling kind of solutions. Then there is another category which is completely autonomous, and it is used for storage and retrieval, for storage, automatic storage and retrieval systems, right? So that's absolutely a complete different space, which is to do with the specific inventory management part of the material handling solutions. Then there are mobile racks kind of solutions, right? So wherein the racks itself or the inventory itself in a warehouse context or in a manufacturing plant's context, can move, right? So these are broadly, there are many others as well, but these are the ones which are well known and are quite active and quite hot today in the industries, right? So I just thought of, I just thought of giving you this whole the whole landscape around that. So setting up the context, sorry. I'm sorry that. Yeah. So setting up a context, material handling solutions have been thought of majorly to do with material movement, right? This is how I have been observing myself, and many of my colleagues also. I get to know and I get to hear from them that the material handling solution is perceived as majorly like material movement, right? To do with material movement, but that is not the case, right? Many of you definitely would be aware about this thing, that material handling is much more about that. But just to set the context right for everyone here, material handling solutions has not only to do with material movement, which is point A to point B, but it also has to do with the protection of the material. It also has to do with the storing of the material. It also has to do to do with the controlling of the material as well. When I say controlling, that means which material is to be moved, when it is to be moved, why it is to be moved, on basis on what rules or regulations it is to be moved. So now with this context, in the coming up slides, you would understand or you would observe that there is a lot of intelligence involved in the material movement, right? And there is a lot of data, a lot of information involved and tagged with the material movement. Hence it is a vast space, and it becomes complex, and it also becomes useful and more beneficial for the industries to adopt. So moving on, I thought of also giving you a characteristics kind of a thing for autonomous material handling solutions, right? So if we are talking about autonomous material handling solutions, what kind of characteristics these solutions would have, right? Generically speaking. So, since we are talking about autonomous technology here in material handling solutions, definitely these autonomous solutions should have some sense and some kind of intelligence built into them to be independent, right? To be independent to take decisions, to be independent to take material from here to there, to be independent to take few intelligent logics to be implemented. All of that should be there on the board if we are calling any material handling solution as autonomous, right? So think of it as a human, right? So a human, for example, if a human is left out in a unknown space, then human uses the senses, like senses of there are eyes to see around, there are ears to hear around, there is a brain to take decisions based on some rules regulation. Absolutely same way, the same analogy works for autonomous material handling solutions, wherein they require some kind of a guidance, some kind of a visual to move around, which can be natural navigation or barcode, as you can see on the screen, right? So I'm sorry, just give me a second. I'll just there is. It has gone slow. Just a second. I'm sorry for this. There is there's just one. It got slow. I just wanted to update the deck. Yeah, I'm really sorry for that. This I just realized that there is the previous version I was just talking about. So or I was referring on the presentation. So yeah, so we were here. So I'm really sorry for that. I'll just move on from here. I hope you guys would bear that and can should be able to continue with me on this. Yeah. So I was saying that like humans does, if they are left out in an environment, they need to think about it. They need to sense the environment around, and then they need to take decisions from their brains. Similarly, the same analogy works for autonomous material handling solutions, wherein they need to have some kind of a sense. For example, here in this case, in autonomous technologies, there are lidar based or laser based technologies or barcode based technologies or tracks. In the case of mobile racking systems, there are tracks, right, on which the whole racks move. So these act as guides for autonomous material handling solutions to move around, right? So there is intelligence required for autonomous material handling solutions. For them to, if there are many possible ways to move around, they need to have intelligence to choose that particular path basis on or subjected to the optimization of the energy, the optimization of the right distance, and the optimization of the battery they are consuming. So basis on all of that. So there may be situations in which autonomous robots are moving around and they see obstacles in front of them. So they need to take decisions then and there itself, right? So all these capabilities are need to be built in as a characteristics in general for material handling solutions, right? So there is one thing that I would like to highlight in the characteristics of for autonomous solutions is that there is a lot of, as I mentioned, it is not just about material moving from point A to point B. It is also about the decisions, the logics and the intelligence moving around. in the back end for that material movement. So there is a lot of data that autonomous solutions carry while they are moving the material, right? So this data carries a lot of value, right? This data can brought back or can be given back to the managers on the facility, shop floor or in the warehouse, to understand what kind of hindrances or what kind of dip points are coming in the operations while the material is being moved, right? So these are so many data and analytics that can happen while the material is being moved. So all these capabilities are the generic characteristics of autonomous material handling solution technology. So I'll move on to the next one. So this is the glance of how these autonomous material handling solutions technologies work and how are they connected, right? So as I mentioned, right, just imagine a car, right? So that the car is equipped with autonomous technology, and that car is on the road, right? So this car, like a human would do, what are the fixed features, what are the landmarks around on the road, what are the dynamic ones, what are the static ones. Based on all this information of the environment, the car is deciding to move and how to move, when to move, with what speeds to move on the road. So this is a lidar based or a laser based kind of a technology. There can be another technology which is a barcode, right? So I'm just quoting these two technologies here, which are laser based or barcode, but there can be other ones also. The point that I'm trying to make here is that autonomous solutions require some kind of a technology which act as their guides towards that motion, right? So nowadays, these two technologies are the most common ones, which are lidar based or barcode based. China is doing in and out production of these kind of mobile robots or autonomous material handling solutions based on these two technologies. And in today's era, these two technologies are also came together in one piece to be called as hybrid technology, wherein barcode is also there and lidar based technology is also there, right? So this is how generically, just to give you a sense how these technologies work. So moving on, I would like to show you how and brief you on how this technology also connects to the outer world, right? So just imagine a facility. It can be a manufacturing plant or a warehouse plant or any other plant, right? So just imagine all these autonomous material handling solutions are moving around or are existing in this facility. Now, all these material handling solutions are first of all connected to each other through Wi-Fi, right? This is an example. There can be another technology also, but they are connected through Wi-Fi, right? So now Wi-Fi is through Wi-Fi, they are connected to central control unit. It can be a PLC based or a software based. It can be any technology based server. This CCU or this central control unit is responsible to give commands to all these autonomous mobile robots or material handling solutions. What tasks is to be performed? When are they required to be performed? And if there are any exceptions. For example, if one robot goes down, then this central control unit tells the other robots that one robot friend of yours is going down or has gone down. You guys have to maintain the whole fleet. You guys would have to maintain the whole throughput or volume by working little more faster. So these are the orchestration that keeps on happening through central control unit. Now, the important point is who is telling this central control unit what is to be done, right? So there has to be a commander as well sitting atop of central control unit. So this can be a customer's software, which can be WMS for a warehouse case. It can be ERP generally. It can be MES, manufacturing execution systems or software for manufacturing plants. So this system is connected to central control unit. The way the way WMS or ERP or SAP systems today, the way they command their manpower today, or the way today uh, the way today the assignment of task happens in the environment through these software SAP and WMS and ERP, the similar way that these commands are given to the central control unit, right? So instead of manpower, the robots are doing the job, or material handling solutions are doing the job. So that's the only difference, right? So otherwise the information flows the same and the efficiency is even better in that case. So there can be another way wherein the WMS or the software is not lying or not siting locally in the facility. It is somewhere in the cloud through internet, then the CCO is connected. That is also possible. So the last but not the least, in fact, that is important one, which is when these solutions are moving around in the facility, right? There is a lot of data which is getting generated. Since it is not about material movement from point A to point B, it is about a lot more. It is about data. It is about analysis. That data, there can be a software which is connected through internet to the central control unit. All of that data is getting to this software, and there is a lot of computations and analysis being done in that software, which is keeping an eye in every movement the material handling solutions are doing. It can be how many trips are completed, how many obstacles were encountered in the space, how many times the charging went down unexpectedly, how many robots are there in the charging, how many are productive, how many are not, so many other things, right? So that's the analytics software which does this job. So this is how, in a very brief, how this technology connects to across systems and the facility where they are working. So moving on, what are the possible levels of impacts or possible levels of intelligence which can be built in a material handling or in an autonomous material handling solution? This is very important, right? I hope this would give you some surprise as far as the capabilities of autonomous material handling solutions are concerned, right? So as I mentioned earlier, the material handling solutions are largely perceived as, or largely utilized as, point A to point B movements, right? So if an autonomous material handling solution is just used for point A to point B movement, right? If it is just used for that, then this utilization or the impact is bare minimal, right? However, if the same material handling solution goes to an extreme intelligence level, right, then the impact which can be created or the benefits that can be generated by same material handling solution can be enormous, right, can be humongous. Now, at that level, the same material handling solution would be in a very better situation to enable Industry 4.0 or 5.0 or even beyond that. Because at that level, the artificial intelligence and the power of taking decisions gets enabled at level 5. So there are, of course, many levels in between, right? So if a material handling solution is just used for point A, point B movement, or it is used for point A, point B movement, as well as data, as well as information, as well as a lot of logics, that makes the whole difference, right? There are a lot many levels in between where today's industry lies, right? So let me just take you through that. So level 1, which was core benefit, or the basic minimal benefit, was to move the material from point A to point B. Level 2 is where the picking, placing of the material is also happening automatically, right? So deciding what is to be picked, when it is to be picked, from where it is to be picked is also built in. Then you reach to level 2, or the level 2 benefit can be realized from the autonomous material handling solution. Then comes level 3, which is the material is being moved automatically, picked automatically, but the solution is moving around in a collaborative manner in the environment. It is also talking to across systems while it is moving, right? And the solution as a wholesome is also flexible solution, scalable solution. What do I mean by that? I mean, if there are 10 material handling equipments installed in a facility, right? Now, if there is another 2 required to be added, then it should be it should be as seamless as possible, right? It should be as good as today's scenario, right? What happens in today's scenario? If there is an e-commerce warehouse, right, or a Flipkart's warehouse, Amazon's warehouse, any warehouse, right? So what happens there? So there are 100 people being hired on contractual basis for a day, let's say, right? And then next day they see a volume, they higher volume in the deliveries or in the orders. The next very day, the contractor would get a 50 plus demand on the manpower, and that would be delivered on the to the warehouse. Absolutely same way. This should happen with the robots, or this should happen with the material handling solutions as well. If there are fleet of 10 robots running, 10 solutions running in, and then there are 2 more to be added, 5 more to be added, it should be as seamless as possible. If it is collaborative, can you sense the kind of benefit it can deliver if you are at level 3, which means you are collaborative? What kind of a benefit a customer can directly look at or realize, right? So that benefit is no blockage of space, right? If a technology like autonomous material handling solution, right, if it is collaborative, you don't need to block a space for the robots or for solution to work around. They can move along with the people, they can move along with the operators, and hence you don't kill space in a facility, right? So that's level 3. Moving on to level 4, which is like the whole fleet is working and across systems are connected, systems are talking to each other. A system is demanding the orders or demanding the material from material handling solutions fleet, and material handling solution is automatically coming and delivering that to the system. There is no manual intervention required. That is level 4. And level 5 I have already explained, wherein a lot of data is being involved and there is a lot of data which is getting analyzed. I would like to take a pause here and would like to give you an example. If there is a company A and there is a company B, an e-commerce company, for example, right? So there is an e-commerce company A which decides to buy a material handling solution, autonomous material handling solution, just for the dispatch, which is point A to point B movement, right? Nothing else, nothing more than that, right? Then there is another company, which is company B, an e-commerce company again. They buy a material handling solution, autonomous material handling solution, but not just for material movement. They use it for the whole, intelligence as well, right? So the company B, wherein a lot of intelligence is expected from material handling solution, is also that solution is providing lot many informations to the e-commerce player. What kind of informations that can be, right? So for example, if you order a shirt from let's say any e-commerce company, what happens, right? That orders get to the software of the e-commerce company, and then from where that order is to be picked is then decided by a central software system. That system commands a particular warehouse to pick that particular shirt, right? This is what happens, right? So now imagine a material handling solution is installed in the same facility, and that solution is talking to the software of the facility and analyzing that a Christmas week is coming and there would be red color shirts or red color caps are going to get ordered, and automatically the inventory which is sitting beside or behind or the backside of the facility of the warehouse comes to the front automatically, right? So this is a decision that is already taken, automatically taken by a material handling solution, wherein it's not just about material movement from point A to point B. There are decisions which are taken, and this e-commerce company, which is e-commerce company B, which has installed this highly intelligent or utilizing highly the intelligence of AMHS to the extreme level, this would realize a benefit which can be directly passed on to their own customers, right? It does not remain, the benefit does not remain within the facility. That's the power of the level of intelligence that can be utilized in through autonomous material handling solutions. I hope I was clear on that. Otherwise, we'll have some interactions on the chat later on or in a Q&A session. So moving on, let's look at a landscape of industries as well. What industries are quite active, in this space? And I'm keeping myself to India specifically. That's quite natural, and it would also give more productive, outputs if I keep myself in a narrow geography and in a narrow industries, right? So this is the landscape which is actively using all these autonomous material handling solutions today. E-commerce, 3PLs, manufacturing plants, agriculture. There is a recent trend, by the way, that I have personally observed at airports. There are robots which are being used to taxi the aeroplanes, remote controlled, or now the next move is going to be autonomous there as well. So these are the industries which are actively and are hot using autonomous material handling solutions. What is forcing these industries to, what are the drivers or forces behind the pressure of using autonomous material handling solutions for the industries which I showed you in the last slide? Who is forcing them, and what is that force or driver of them? Why do they at all think about, or why do they at all have to bother about moving from manual to automation, or from automation to flexible automation in their operations? And if they don't do it, what do they lose, right? So let's look at that. So let's talk about e-commerce industry, right? So e-commerce industry itself in an Indian context, right, is annually growing at a 15% approximate rate. It may be even higher than that, a little more higher than that. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So that means the turnaround times, the service level agreements, the targeted orders are shooting up. The things which were possible through manpower, or through conventional processes, or through conventional material handling solutions, are not going to stay true anymore, right? So that's the driver, or the pressure that e-commerce companies have already started, feeling. Let's talk about logistics, which is my favorite, right? And this is the most I would say relevant industry for autonomous material handling solution. Logistics companies, 3PL specifically, have seen 2.5x or 3x kind of surge in their demands in the COVID period, right? That is, I might be quoting lesser, but it could be even more. But now the COVID is a little less, right? It's not so effective, or it's not so impactful. But now all that, the trend has not gone down so much. The trend has even gone up. Let me give you an example to you. 10 years or 12 years back, when the giant e-commerce like Flipkart or Amazon or Flipkart came into in effectiveness in the country, even older than that. So they started with fashion. Slowly, gradually, we saw that the online trend is going on. From fashion in India, the merchandise also got online. Right now, we are seeing a trend of FMCG getting online. We're seeing groceries also getting online. FMCGs and groceries are just 2 years old or 3 years old in the online space, right? Effectively, right? And that's going to grow. What does that mean for a 3PL or for a logistics company? That means that they are going to see a surge in the demand, sudden steep surge, steep demand in their orders, and there would be also requirements around exceptions handling in the same space, or in the same requirements. So that's a driver which is pushing 3PLs to adopt autonomous material handling solutions, right? So by the way, before I go forward, you might be thinking, what exactly driving what would happen if a 3PL adopt automation solution, right? What it is just doing material movement, right? How they would be able to touch upon their end customers, or their business can be touched if they adopt automation solution. The answer is on the green block that has just come up. So I'll give you a real-time examples here. In the last 1 year, I personally, have been trying to talk to e-commerce companies, logistics companies regarding automation solutions. What I have observed and what I have been hearing is that there are 3PL companies which are losing business from the giant companies, e-commerce giant companies. The reason is these giant companies are now asking for more handling solutions. They are asking for capability of handling peaks and valleys in their volumes, which is only possible by automation, right? Which is not possible by just rushing manpower into the warehouses, right? So that is not simply possible by manpower. So e-commerce companies have understood that, and they are only giving businesses to the 3PLs which are having automation solutions and intelligent products to handle those kind of demands. So there is a cutthroat competition going on there. Seasonality and mass personalization is also has boosted up the drivers for industries to adopt automation. The awareness also has been increased from last 3 years in this space, right, in the automation space. Why is that? So I have been witnessing the giant logistics companies, giant e-commerce, giant manufacturing plants now doing a lot of proof of concepts around automation, to adopt that, to adopt these new trends of the automation, because they have now realized the benefits of that. This is also a new trend. Increasing space expenses and manpower expenses, this is not going to go anywhere. This is definitely going to increase, and that also pushes for automation solution. With all this, these drivers, safety and efficiency definitely is a very business as usual demand from the industries, right? So all of this collectively together is forcing the move towards or shift towards automation. So purely till this slide, we have understood that purely manual operations or conventional processes are not going to meet the demands, operational costs, or the dynamics of the industry, right? We need something more, right? So let's look around that. So this is just telling that, whatever trend we just saw is not enough. The future is even going to be more tremendous, bring us more tremendous growth. Look at India. 7 to 8% of e-commerce growth is there. However, China, which having almost similar population, same population, is doing 20%. We cannot apple compare India, China on the population side of it, but there are other factors also which are related to growth. But this is just giving you a glance, what future can bring to us or to the industries going forward. I'm going to focus a little more into details into the warehouses to give you. So we have understood that there is a lot of driver, a lot of force regarding automation solutions, and why are they required? Why industries should think about it, right? Or why they should quickly adopt it. But what is the situation or what is the thought process of the ground operations team? Right? That is very important to understand. What does ground operations think about it, right? And do they also feel that there are a lot of benefits in adopting that? Let's look around that as well. While we do this, and I'm going to give you examples. I'll pick examples from warehouse. Right? So warehouse, if we look around, are of two major categories: fulfillment centers and delivery hubs, e-commerce and logistics warehouses, right? So if you move out the inventory part, you are left with delivery hubs or dispatch hubs, right? What kind of materials are these warehouses, moving? What is the kind of material, right? They are moving totes, they are moving containers, cartons, pallets, bags, trolleys, roll cages. These are the material that they are moving, right? Now let's look around. What kind of solutions do they use today for doing this intra-logistics part or doing this material movement, right? I'm talking about the majority. Till now, 5 to 7% of warehouses have moved towards autonomous solutions, not the complete one, but there is a lot of chunk which is still using the same kind of material handling solutions, right? So let's look around that as well. So for an inbound movement, wherein the trucks come at the inbound, staged, and it moves to the inventory, material moves to the inventory. A lot of warehouses or facilities are using HOPTs or BOPTs, battery operated pallet trucks. Within the inventory, the picking is happening in a smaller trolleys, right? Like this, carrying totes. After the picking is happened, after the picking is done, the material moves to packaging area or to the staging area. That again happens on a tote or maybe on a pallet as well. It can happen, right, for a large warehouses. Once everything is done, the material is to be sorted for final destination or to the outbound dispatch or to the final dispatch area. That happens on roll cages majorly. They contain bags or cartons or stuff like that. So this is being used and to a dispatch area as well. Now let's see something interesting here, right? All this material movement which happens on using all these material handling solutions, what is the magnitude of this material movement which I just showed you, right? What is the magnitude of that in a facility, right? Just to give you a glimpse of how serious that is, right? 12 to 30% of the e-commerce warehouses manpower could be just doing material movement, summing up together, right? Pallets, picking, sorting, consolidation, all of these processes involve moving the material. So 12 to 30% of that may involve manpower, may be involved in that material movement, right? That becomes 80 to 90% if we are talking about a logistics warehouse instead of an e-commerce warehouse, right? Now, 2 to 5% of per day orders can be skipped if this material movement is not synchronized, harmonized, or it's not happening properly. I'm not even talking about wrong dispatches and inaccuracies and efforts and re-efforts. I'm not even touching that. This is the scale we are talking about, right? Till now, material movement is considered as good to have, not must to have. I'm absolutely against that. It is absolutely the right time to go autonomous in that, right? Because looking at these scales. Now let's look around. Using these material handling solutions, right, which are there on the screen, which I just showed you. Right, majorly all warehouses facilities are using that. These are the ones. But what are the expectations of the warehouse? Although they are using these material handling solutions, but where does the expectation lie? Let's look at that as well. The expectation lies, the turnaround time should be met, the revenue should be met. There shouldn't be any inaccuracies. The warehouse operation manager or warehouse head is thinking that I shouldn't be losing any business because my material handling solutions or manpower is not working at par. So these are his concerns, his or her concerns, right? Safety is also again one of the concerns. The manager, a warehouse manager or the head is expecting that, I'll be using minimum space and minimum resources in getting the maximum output while I use all these material handling solutions, which are on the screen, which are majorly being used today. Now you all know you are all from this industry, relevant industry, right? So you know that this is not happening. This is not possible. But why is that not possible? Meeting all these expectations from the current material handling solutions. Why is that not possible? This is why it is not possible. These are the pains. These are the pains and the reasons why expectations cannot be met with current handling solutions. What are those? If the operations manager is thinking of meeting turnaround times and there is a sudden peak because of Diwali, Holi, Christmas, seasons, right, variabilities in demand, the guy won't be able to meet the turnaround times just pushing the manpower to do the job. That is not possible. In fact, the errors would go up, the reworks would go up. In fact, the productivity may even go down, right? There is a lot of information coordination that is happening to task assignment, which is happening manually today, right? There is a task that gets assigned by warehouse manager to many pickers. Go and pick this stuff, come back, do this, do that. All of that with the changes happening real time in the order fulfillment is not simply possible by manpower, right? So there are space constraints, right? You cannot simply push on BOPTs all around and then also think there won't be any accident. That's not possible. Right, so these are the pains because of which, or hurdles because of which the expectations cannot be met using the current solution. Now, on the right side, the green ones are the value propositions which a right material handling solution should have to actually kill or to actually meet, sorry, not kill, to meet the expectations that the operations managers have. What are those value propositions? The solution should be flexible, modular, right? If there are changes in real time, the solution should adopt that. integrability so that there is no manual intervention required, right? For someone to tell pickers what to pick, when to pick, how to pick, and all of that, right? So there shouldn't be there. Connected solution, right? No one is telling someone to put that stuff to a conveyor or lift. All of that should happen automatically if the system is connected, right? The system should be scalable, but of course, right? Better and consistent throughput with peaks and valleys happening in the demands and in the volumes. There should be a solution which should cut down these peaks and amplitudes in peaks and valleys. It should give consistent throughput. That's the expectation of an imaginable, a solution. Better safety and 100% traceability and visibility of the material while in transit. These are the expectations, right? So autonomous material handling solutions are absolutely capable of meeting these value propositions or providing these value propositions, which in return are actually addressing the expectations of the operations managers, right? While these industries, or while you would have heard, while you would have met as a suppliers, for example, you would have met customers. If they tell you that this is just good to have, maybe this slide would help you. This slide would really help you to make them understand that what is future going to look like and why it is to be adopted today. So if that is understood, then this is what should happen. At the inbound process, instead of HOPT, we can have autonomous BOPT. Absolutely autonomously picking the pallets, moving it, all of that, right? Picking should happen either within the inventory like that, right? So there is no information which is required to be given to the pickers and changes to be told to them real time in the picking process. That is all is not required. Software is talking to software, and everything should be done at the end of the day. Right? So autonomous picking, packaging, or moving towards packaging can also happen. The dispatch can also happen again autonomously, right? So with all these solutions, one can see a value propositions which I showed you in green in the last slide. So now we are almost towards the last section of the presentation or the session. We have already seen the need of material handling solutions and value propositions that they bring in. What are the real benefits that on ground can be proposed to the warehouse operators or the facility operators, right? So this is the benefits that you see on the screen are actually realized, told, proven on the solutions cases by mobile robot communities together, right? And you can see there, so 50% reduction in unwanted motion. There is a lot of unwanted motion that happens in a warehouse, right? So that is reduced. There are no error rates. Machines are picking, machines are putting, machines are moving. There is no manual intervention required, no scope of errors happening in between, all of that, right? So space, of course, is a big advantage. The things that, the volumes that, for example, 1,000 volumes were a warehouse head was able to move out from the warehouse. Now that can be increased because the space is now shrinked, since the material is moving much streamlined way, right? 10% year-on-year productivity increase. You must be surprised. How can 10% year-on-year productivity increase can happen once the solution is deployed? It has a certain benefits that you all have understood, right? 50% reduction, unwanted motion, and all of that. But how can that increase year-on-year automatically? So there is a little secret behind that, which is not a secret anymore. But the systems are learning by themselves. The facility is getting tuned to that automation solution, right? So all of these transients take some time. And in a year or 2 years or so, that gets fully established, fully learned, and then there are benefits which are even delivered even after the installation is done, right? And then there can be additional complementary solutions which can be integrated with the existing solution to make it even more productive. So that's what I meant. It can be a year-on-year productivity increase. 100% visibility on the material while it is in transit, right? So with my real experiences in warehouses, I have seen managers telling me that there is a particular order that is being picked but has not reached to the dispatch area. From last 2 hours, I am searching for that particular trolley to complete that order, but I'm not able to pick that trolley because I don't know where the trolley is, right? It's a serious problem, right? So it is being picked, but somehow the operator had to go for a lunch or for a break or whatsoever, right? And the trolley kept on lying there. These are real life examples which are really making the life tough while the turnaround times are to be met. So this is what benefits can be realized, right? So going forward, I have another example, which is quite quickly I'll sum it up. This is around the. By the way, this is courtesy to Six River Systems. The photographs is from Six River Systems, and I have taken so many content from different communities, different robotics companies, Six River Systems, Wonderlande, and many other companies. To give you the sharing. But I'm just doing that. So I'm just wanted to share that information as well. So everything and anything that I'm showing you does not specifically belong to Hi-Tech. It is a content taken from the community, a material handling solutions community. So if you look around this particular use case, which is pick, put, store, right? So what kind of benefits can be realized from this kind of a solution, right? So what happens in a picking? In picking, there is a lot of transportation that happens. Once the material is picked, it has to be transported somewhere. This whole transportation piece is taken away, right? And then there is 100% saving in the manpower. The guy who was doing transportation, the same guy can be then replaced by can then contribute in picking, which is more critical than transportation as far as the final customer is concerned, right? So there's a direct benefit that gets in. Assisted picking, what does that mean? That means that if a picker is picking, he's also transporting, he's also handling some exceptions. He or she is thinking that I'll get some material in a pigeonhole, and that has to be picked. But once they reach there, they do not see that material there. So that's an exception. Now the picker himself or herself has to go to the manager asking, what should I do now? I'm stuck. I don't know. I don't find that material there. These are exceptions which kill the times, right? That is all not required. The robot can replace the location or locating part. It automatically reaches to the location. Picker simply picks it, puts it there. Since the putting of the material and picking of the material both are happening by robots, there cannot be material miss in the shelves, right? So those many exceptions can be simply taken away if that is completely autonomous, right? Or assisted also, or semi-autonomous as well, right? So there are savings there as well. Dynamic zoning is a very good concept. I guess Six River has utilized it beautifully, right? So I'm not branding it. I'm not branding any one particular brand, but I'm trying to say is that's a good learning that everyone else that is there on the website, on their website itself, dynamic zoning. What is this all about? This is the pickers are doing the job, the robots are doing their job, and we already have seen, for example, the savings on replacing transporter or assisted picking. But then also there is one thing which can go wrong, which is one zone is fully loaded by the orders. The another zone is absolutely not loaded by the orders. So few robots are absolutely, or few pickers are absolutely busy and others are not. So then if robots are installed in this facility, they themselves understand that these many orders are to be picked today, and then they will uniformly divide the whole load so that all the pickers are uniformly distributed, and from there also there can be savings, right? So this is a particular case of picking, putting, and storing, right? Which can be done by the robots here, or maybe. The next one is a complete ASRS system, right? And for totes movement. So I'm just showing you the benefits that can be realized from this kind of systems as well, right? Imagine there is 50,000 kind of a 50,000 items containing inventory and 2,500 square feet kind of a facility. Just in this facility, these are the benefits that a person can realize or anyone can realize, right? Just in storage, 35% gain. Manpower, there is a lot of manpower saving in picking or consolidating. Replenishment orders, there is manpower saving, right? It's very significant, numbers and gains that can happen through complete ASRS system, kind of autonomous material handling solution. I just thought of giving you glance of benefits as well for picking up 2-3 use cases. Pick, put, store, the one that I'm showing you right now. So with this, I guess I'm done with most of the content. In fact, almost all of the content. And I just wanted to leave you with one thought, which is we have understood I hope we have understood that there is a lot of pressure, a lot of drivers, there is a lot of demand and a lot of need of moving towards those autonomous material handling solutions. What are the pains? What are the gains? What benefits can be realized with these material handling solutions? So this is but obvious that this is the time to go and adopt these kind of solutions as soon as possible, right? This is but obvious, at least as per me, right? So which is how future may look like, right? So we have seen material handling solutions. I gave you examples on that, but things are moving very fast. Industries are moving fast, right? Demands are growing. We see many other industries getting into online business, right? All of that is happening while we are thinking, or while industries are thinking of adopting material handling solutions, right? How future may look like, right? So this is just glance of that. And the resources from where I have taken this, or sorry, the sources I have taken these examples are also written down there, and this is the courtesy of the companies working on these technologies. So look at the first one, Boston Dynamics. It's a self-balancing robot, picking and placing. This is where the future lies, right? Absolutely intelligent robot talking to robot, doing picking, no space constraints, no big aisles required to move the stuff, smaller aisles, constrained aisles, and everything. Absolute flexible machine, right? Look at the second one, which is Skeleton, right? A pick and place robot. There are stuffs which can be moved easily, right? People are thinking about this kind of a technology in near future, and it is picking up pace as far as adoption is concerned. Look at the third one. This is one of my favorite ones, the squid robots, ASRS. This guy, while people are thinking, or while technology companies are thinking, how do we build ASRS systems and all, this particular company came up with a different concept, right? This is squid. So they can move around on the floor, and they can simply climb the racks like this. You can simply climb the racks and pick up the stuff there. So this is as beautiful as it can be, right? So, and the last one is Daifuku Image, which I am just again taken. They are doing brilliant job in this space. The future would have absolutely dark stores, dark warehouses, no manual intervention required, humongous space, humongous automation happening out there. Software is talking to software, and the material gets out automatically at the output, at the dispatch area to be dispatched. So this is going to be super automation. Material handling solutions are going to take the routes, right? So my question was how future may look like, right? The future definitely that future is about technology way, right? So it's about technology, right? Apart from technology, this is coming from my limited experience, that even if you have bestest of technology, depending upon which geography we are sitting at, depending upon what kind of customers we are dealing with, depending upon what suppliers do have in their kitty, based on all of these parameters, there are decisions which are required to be taken at the right and the business model itself, right? So future may have capex going down, RAS coming up, RAS model coming up, rental models coming up, right? So lesser risks, lower entry barriers, all of that is what future may bring us, right? So these solutions are absolute flexible autonomous material handling solutions, which also gives or enable a different variety of business model enablements for us to offer as suppliers or as customers to adopt right execution. There are companies I have been talking to. There are suppliers I get in touch with. They have the right technology, right business model, but the execution is not there, because of which the time in which they should enter into the market also gets lost, and because of that customers also lose the benefits they could have got from there. So I'll just give last example here, and I'm gonna wrap it up. So recently I was talking to a logistics partner or logistics company. This company told me that there is an e-commerce player from whom we are expecting business. We are getting very less business. Whatever we tell to the e-commerce giant, as a logistics partner, we are getting very less business from e-commerce company for their logistics, for doing their logistics, and we are also getting very less, payment, or very less amount to do that shipment, to do that logistics. There is another company, again a 3PL logistics, a third-party logistics, which is to this 3PL logistics company, e-commerce company is giving a lot of business and at a higher price. So there is a company which is willing to do logistics at a very low price. They are not getting business. They are getting very less business. On the other hand, there is a logistics company which is doing a lot of, they're charging more, but they're getting more business, right? So this is about, they have the right technology, they have the right autonomous material handling solutions adoption with them, and they have the right promises to do to the e-commerce company. And then both the companies feel confidence about getting engaged in that business, right? So hence, not only technology, the adoption of it, the right execution, and at the right time is also important, right? So this is what I'm gonna leave the session with, and the answer of how future may look like. The future lies in the advanced technologies, sustainability of the business, and delivering it at the right time. So with this I'm gonna end here, and I hope this was useful and I could make some benefit. I could create some benefit in your experiences, or you could utilize this session and your time in a useful and a productive manner. That's what I hope. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Mr. Lasa. I think that was a really very interesting session. Like personally for me as well, there were a lot of myth breakers. There was a lot of insights that I could gather from this presentation, and I'm sure the attendees that we have with us, they would have gained equally, if not more, from this session. Now we have got quite a few sort of interesting set of questions. So, but before that, I just had a just a very simple query. Like when we talk about automation or autonomous, and we talk about concepts, sometimes like they seem to be very interesting to and very logical, and there's always a business case around an automation. But when it comes to actual adoption, there seems to be some bit of resistance in people going for it like very quickly, even though on paper everything seems to be like absolutely on the dot. Why does that happen? I mean, this is not posted by anybody. This is just me sort of asking after going through this presentation.
No, I really appreciate this question, and I'm, there is no surprise that, this is coming from you. This is a super heavy question, right? So I myself have been struggling with this question from last 2 to 3 years. I was struggling. Now I think that I have got some clarity on that, and I would like to share that opinion with you as well. There are two factors which contribute in understanding the benefits of these technologies, but not adopting it, or not putting dollars against them. Right? So I think there are two reasons to it, in my opinion. One is a very internal reason, right? For example, if I am a supplier and I'm trying to sell something, and I'm trying hard to make it realize to my customers that boss, this is the future, right? So the first thing starts from internal. Internally, we should first evaluate the kind of the value propositions that we are bringing on the table, or the value propositions we are showing to the customer is really is absolutely making sense, right? First, just saying that we are going to remove manpower from your operations doesn't solve the purpose, right? So because I mean in India we are we are sitting in a country, the economics sometimes does not make sense for high technologies, right? So it shouldn't start with manpower reduction, in my opinion. It should start with space saving, for example. It should start with, if you adopt this technology, the business also, you may gain business as well, right? You may see revenues moving. We need to take the value proposition to that level, which directly connects to the customer in their current scenario, not only future, right? That's what I have realized internally. So it took us, in my past experiences, my past companies, it really take a good amount of time to first identify those value propositions internally and then quantify them. Quantification is very, very important. At the end of the day, anyone is going to put dollars against anything black and white, any promise which is black and white. So if we are proposing anything, it has to be black and white and quantified. And then the next thing is the external factor. The second reason to me is the external factor. The external factor is, see, customers also, are taking risk. At the end of the day, there is one person who is taking a decision, right? So it depends. It depends a lot on that person capabilities or person's visionary thought to adopt these technologies, right? So the customer segmentation also is very important. So early adopters are one kind of a segment, right? The enterprises are another kind of a segment. So the second reason I feel is we need to lower the entry barrier so that customers do not feel adopting that technology as a risk. This is what I have felt from last 3 years, right? They feel a lot of risk in putting that money. So for example, if we bring down the capex to a RaaS model, we bring down the commercials or the payment terms to a level where they at least start adopting the technology. The moment they start adopting it, they would start realizing the benefits and then they would go full-fledged to it. I cannot believe companies like Flipkart, Amazon, ITC, Asian Paints, Volvo, Eicher, I cannot believe these companies do not have budgets, right? It's the right value proposition they should look at, and it's the right, lower entry barrier they should encounter to quickly adopt these technologies. That's my long answer.
Right. No, it's very well explained. I think that makes a lot of sense that instead of the immediate benefit of people looking at manpower getting optimized, they should start looking at a different metrics to be able to justify
Absolutely.
the automation.
Exactly.
What I'll do, Mr. Nasa, is that there are a flurry of questions. So I'll try to not ask in a sequence. I'll try to connect some answers so
Sure.
that we can get maximum benefit out of the time that we have available. So one of the related
Sure.
questions, though you have partly answered that, is that in developed economies, automation is generally a function of saving on manpower cost because labor is very expensive. Okay.
Right.
But in India, we know that even though labor costs are going higher, but they're still to reach that pinnacle. So
Right.
is there a case study which really, or can you think of any case study which justifies it other than the space saving in labor cost optimization also?
Yeah. So I'll just answer this top of my mind, right? So I don't have a prepared answer for that, but I'll give you an example, a real-time case study or real-time example, right? So I was talking to a giant company, e-commerce giant of the country. I was talking to this company as a supplier, and the use case we were trying to push through, or the use case we were trying to convince the e-commerce giant was selling an autonomous mobile robot to move their stuff from inventory to packaging area, right? It's a simple use case, and today the manpower is doing the job. We were trying to say that autonomous mobile robots would do better job. They said, what would they bring up? I said manpower reduction. They said not convinced. Tell me something else, right? So there were other competitors also along with me who were trying to convince customer on that. So we tried getting into depth of that use case. What else value proposition we can bring in. Space, of course, was not the benefit for that particular use case. So you were just stuck at manpower benefit, right? And that was not convincing customer. We were stuck. Then we did lot many conversations with operations team, ground team on the ground operations team in the facility, safety team, all of them, right? We got to know one thing, right? What was that? This was very surprising. So the inventory was picked up. It was kept outside the picking area, and then a person was coming to pick that trolley to take it to the packaging area. That was the use case we were solving. Now we asked the operations guy, what is the problem in that? Yeah, this is very simple. The guy told me, this is not a problem. This is not a problem that no one is picking the trolley from here to the packaging area, provided it is the trolley is there. I said, what? I couldn't understand. What are you trying to say? So he told me, the trolleys get missed. A picker picks the trolley and he leaves it somewhere else apart from keeping it at the picking area. There are errors that is happening. The guy has to go for a lunch. The guy has a turnaround times and targets to meet. So he keeps on picking, scans it. His job is done. He keeps the trolley somewhere nearby. Now the transporter who is responsible to pick the picked trolleys to packaging area, he doesn't put an effort in looking around those trolleys. Whatever he sees, he just simply takes it off. Now I got to know 2% to 5%, 2 to 4% of these picked trolleys gets missed every day. Every day, 2 to 4% of these trolleys are missed. When I say missed, they do not evaporate. When I say missed, they simply require 1 hour or 2 hours of an effort of a dedicated person to look around for those trolleys, right? Which is a mess. That doesn't happen every day. So that dedicated person is not there. So I got to know flushing out of these inventories, right? And making sure that whatever is picked, there is without any manual intervention, it is taken out and is reached, and there is a trigger gone to the software which tells that whatever was picked has reached to the destination. That was the value proposition. The moment I offered that value proposition, the guy I got an appreciation from the customer that you really have got into the depth. We were thinking of this kind of this thing, and then I converted that into dollars. That was surprising. When I converted that into dollars, this value proposition, there were orders which were VIP orders. They call it high priority orders, right? Not VIP as a person's tagged. Time-wise, those were priority orders. So those priority orders were getting missed, and hence the escalation was happening till the last central person in the e-commerce company. So they got rid of that just because of it. So my answer is, sometimes we feel that just removing manpower is the case, but we need to get into the details. We need to stay there along with the operations person while he's picking the stuff. We need to move around with this guy. We need to understand his daily pains, right? We need to understand why and when he or she is doing mistakes, right? And then click on that. So those additional features may help us building the business case. That's my answer.
Right, I think that's very well explained. But I mean, there are questions which are still being tagged on the same genre. Like we have another question which says, how do we justify an ROI on an automation on an existing standard operational warehouse? So maybe Mr. Nasa, some broad sort of thumb rule that a payback of 2 years period or 5 years period may help in the audience getting a broad view of standard to autonomous. What will be the payback period or the ROI?
Right. Right. So, we have tackled this particular problem. So first of all, let me admit that, whatsoever we say every time getting into the details, making a business case for a good to have, perceived good to have kind of technology is difficult, right? Every time we cannot win the deals on, we can, it's just impossible to get into the details of everything, right? So, and make the business case valid. So first of all, I admit that. But I would still like to propose one thing, which is the continuous trials on understanding those value propositions or those parameters or metrics which matters for the customer, staying with that. So I personally have seen that from last 2 years or so, we at least have got few parameters or few value propositions which were not at all there, neither in our list nor in customers list. And those were important parameters, right? For example, tracking the inventory in a manufacturing plant doesn't make much contribution, doesn't give much benefit, right? But in warehouse it gives a lot, right? For example, I'll give you, so my answer is that although it is difficult to make a ROI every time business case, but then we must at least try to be in the good books of the customer, as and when, at least what would happen is that as and when they realize, they think of getting into the automation, we are right there on their gates with the right value proposition for them to catch on. But entering the lower barrier is the truth of the movement. Today we are sitting at a good to for these technologies, but I have personally felt that we need to lower the entry barrier, which is price is not the price. Of course, is a but obvious answer. But instead of price, we have, for example, many companies are doing rental model or RaaS model, right? Or they are calling a POC package. They are calling proof of concept package. They are saying, use my machine for 1 month, give me 1 lakh, for example. Another 2 months, I'll give you 2 more machines, you give me 2 lakhs. After you are satisfied, absolutely satisfied, after 3 months, if you feel the benefits are there, which we must feel first of all internally, and those are witnessed by customer, next 3 months, after 3 months, then the full-fledged rental model can start. So I feel making the ROIs easy or making the business case easy, the only way I see is about entering that lower barrier through right business model, coming up with right value propositions, quantifying them, come up with some customizations in the product which would help you to give even more benefit, which customer has not thought of, right? So these are the trials, continuous, consistent trials, which should keep on happening. With the besides the truth remains, the ROIs are difficult. I still feel so. I'll be honest on that.
Right. I think that's pretty well explained, Mr. Nasser. So there are again next set of 2 questions which I'm merging and trying to put together. One is about the infrastructure requirement for adopting automation. So that is one. And second is does automation have a plug and play solution, or is it always customized to an application? So there's 2, infra requirement and customization.
Yeah, the first one, which is infrastructure requirement. So nowadays we have technology like LiDAR-based technology, for example, laser-based technology. That doesn't require, your infra to get changed. It is simply, it's absolutely fit for a brownfield project. However, if we compare that with a barcode kind of a technology, wherein the barcodes have to be laid down on the floor and everything else. So that takes some infra changes. But talking about civil infrastructure changes, LiDAR-based, laser-based technologies are the technologies which do not require civil infrastructure changes. IT infrastructure, nowadays, all autonomous material handling solutions, customers are demanding to run these machines on their Wi-Fi's, right, on their internet network, because they have spent a lot of money, lakhs and crores on their network. So they don't want us to bring our own network. So that is a little glitch on a little hurdle on the IT infrastructure requirement side, but that's solvable, absolutely solvable. The machines can run on their own routers and can also run on the customer's facility. So that is apart from these two, civil and IT, I don't see any infrastructure barrier which can take off, which can be a make or break case for selling any customer. Right? So that's first answer. The second one, could you please just remind me on the second one?
So
Which was?
the second one was about customization. Like,
Yeah. So
is there a plug and play model, or every application requires a customized solution?
yeah. So I have a mixed answer on that. What I have realized is customizations, either in the hardware or in the software, is something which is not going away. This is what my realization has been from last 6 years, right? Customers always would have custom.
Mr. Nasser, we cannot hear you. I think there has been a network issue. I think there was some connection issue, and we lost the connection of Mr. Nasser. So, and we are almost at the end of the session. So, I think in the interest of time, we would request all the attendees to please put their comments in the feedback form, and that will help us to understand how did you like this session, and what more would you want us to cover in forthcoming sessions. So with that, we would for the moment bring this event to a close. And thank you very much for taking time out and joining this interesting session. And sorry about this last minute technological glitch where we could not cover the last bit of the question answer session. But I think all through we were able to get quite useful inputs on the automation space in the intralogistics domain. With that, thank you very much, and we are signing off for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.